Good evening. Good evening. This is Back Garden Reads, and today we're talking about Western book Murphy's Gold. As you can see here, this is from a library, but I actually bought this. It's just unfortunately attached, and I would just take it off, but it's all like stuck there, and can't really do much about it. And I kind of want to keep the cover because I like the crosshatch ink cover of this. Murphy's Gold is a Western by Gary Paulsen, sequel to Murphy. Now, I don't have the first book of this, and I have no idea how many more books are after. For all I know, this could be a duology, trilogy, or a complete mega series. I would have no idea. To begin, Murphy is the main character, is this fellow here, and he's the main character of the book, or the book series, I suppose. And he's a sheriff of a gold town, a mining town in the West, like probably maybe it's like during the gold rush in San Francisco. And if you know about the history of that, you would see, there's lots of miners and just traveling out to the west to strike it rich when they heard of gold mines. Ever since then, San Francisco became this mega wealthy city built with the gold, all the people that were selling to the miners and everything. That's why they call it like the Golden Gate Bridge. I don't know. I'm not sure what the whole thing is with that. However, this is not actually set in California. Well, actually, it's hard to tell where it's based, where Cintreville is based. It's safe to assume that it's pretty far out west and near enough to California. It talks about San Francisco a few times, but not enough times for it to be a major plot point, but enough to go like, okay, so this is probably in just around the California area. And Cintreville is a a down and out mining town in the middle of nowhere. Lots of people have settled down. A lot of people are kind of struggling. You see early on that some of the town merchants are trying to convince Murphy to take a pay cut for a while, and in that moment Murphy is just like, no, I'm not taking a pay cut. I'm literally the only lawman here. There's no way he can do that. But he doesn't say that, he just conveys that through a look. He just stares at them and just goes like, no. And then they go like, okay, we'll pay you the same amount as before. This feels like a very typical Western. Well, when I say typical Western, I mean the malaise, the sadness, the melancholy of just like living in a stagnant place and wanting a bit more excitement. Generally, the whole vibe of the whole gold rush of people trying to strike it rich, you get that with Murphy most of all, where he's just like, oh, yeah, this place kind of sucks, and I want to get out of here, but I have to stay here for a little while. I need to earn my money. I need to be the lawman for a little while longer until I have enough money to move to a better place. A joint plan with his sort of girlfriend, I suppose, Midge. Yeah, it's that woman there, and this is Midge's place. It's a place where miners and other workers come in and have some food that she's prepared in the morning, during the lunch, and during the evening. You get this whole thing of dissatisfaction with where he's at, his life, and several other things. You get that peppered throughout the book, you can really understand the character, and you can kind of empathize with that, especially if you're a person that's just feels like you're in a dead-end place in life. It all starts with this investigation, this requested investigation by a Chinese immigrant. And now the father, Wang Su, goes missing. The mother and the daughter are all distraught and worried and everything like that. And so they come to Murphy and they ask, oh hey, is the law for everyone? Because they're really concerned that it's going to be a case of, hey, this law is for some people, just not all people, because it speaks of a time when the Chinese immigrants who were brought into America mostly as servants or railroad workers were treated pretty terribly. The aggrieved family is worried that it's the same case with Murphy and him being the sheriff and the law and everything like that. He assures them, because he's a good man, this is for everyone. I will investigate the same for you as I would everyone else. And you can see that he genuinely wants to help people. That's a very nice thing. But he's also a guy who's just kind of fed up with his current lot in life. And there's like a mysterious disappearance of the father. Not soon after, there's this encounter in the Midge's place, where there's this newcomer who's called a newcomer, and some of his gang are like causing just a little bit of hullabaloo or a little bit of trouble. And then it goes on from there. You can probably guess the entire plot from there. And probably even more so with the title, what I just said with the gold rush. You can probably tell all of it from that. Unlike most Western media, it's a very slow build-up. It's not this consistent sort of action. I would say a lot of people might characterize Westerns as being very action-oriented, and yes, while it is more drawn towards action, it's not so much all the time. There are a lot of quiet moments, a lot of contemplation, a lot of trying to understand the world, the situation, trying to talk with people, and all sorts of other things. There's a lot of slow moments. Most of it is a slow build-up, and it's a slow piecing together of following this man and his piecing together of this mystery of the disappearance of Wang Su, the strange outlaws. It's not clear if they are outlaws, but rather that they are troublemakers. That's known for sure. Sometimes that's just enough for there to be problems. There are a few actiony bits here and there, and they're more like sudden, explosive bits of violence that is very random and very like, oh wow, oh, it's like, oh wow, that's kind of surprising. It's not these long drawn out gunfights that you might see in some westerns. Like sometimes there's not even any guns at all being fired. Sometimes it's resolved by fist. It's pretty interesting in that way. This is a very short book, 123 pages in all. That's very short. Easily tap this out in one day and just be like, oh okay, cool, whatever, I'm done. That's pretty cool. Like if you wanted to like get into reading and you wanted to finish a book, but you're too intimidated by all these 400, 600, 800, 1,000 page books of all these mega page counts, and then of all these characters, plot points, and all that, you can be like, I don't want to do this. That's just too much. And that's understandable, because sometimes you just need to start off small and then build your way up to it. In this case, this is actually perfect. This would be a perfect story for that, because you get a general feel of a book while not having to worry too much about reading too much or that it being too much. It does come with the caveat that you don't want to spend $8 on a 120 page book. You don't want to spend that much money on this book this small. I think it's even considered a novella. I think that's considered a novella length. And even then, like 123 pages isn't actually the correct number of pages, because there's several pages that are just completely blank right before the chat, and that's a strange thing. And so, in reality, it's probably actually 115 pages long, which is even shorter than before. Some people might say like, yeah, I don't want to buy that. It's just too much. That's not enough pages to justify this price, which is another reason to be against the book. You really get into the characters, Murphy's head, how things are going, and his kind of partially pessimistic but also optimistic sort of worldview and trying to get things done. You can probably guess where the story goes from anything else. Now, is it a good Western? Yeah, I would say Murphy's Gold is a pretty good Western. Is it a good first book to read? Yeah, it's a pretty good first book to read. The prose isn't overly complicated or flowery, and you consistently follow this one character, and you really get to understand him and the world around him, and a little bit about the West and a few other things of the time, which is another interesting aspect of the book. You wouldn't really get so much in other Western stories. Now, I'm not sure about other Western books, but from the few that I've read, I would say this is far more character focused and you kind of understand a little bit about the world because, unlike the other books that I've really talked about. And I would totally recommend this to anyone if they're able to find it at all, which I'm not entirely sure if they are. Chances are there might be a compendium or an omnibus book where they compile all the stories of Murphy, if there's more than just these two books, which I have no clue. Well, that's my review.